The Justice Department report on the Uvalde School shooting describes multiple failures by law enforcement, but it does not recommend punishments or criminal charges because of those failures. Hello and good evening. I'm Steve Eager.
Hello, everybody. I'm Heather Hayes. The Attorney General made it clear his focus was to document how the tragedy happened and to leave it up to the local DA to decide if there's a criminal case. So this is the scene today. This is Uvalde, where a memorial honors the 19 children and 2 teachers murdered May 24th, 2022. Fox 4's Stephen Dial has a breakdown of the DOJ's finding. He joins us now. Stephen.
The DOJ report is very extensive, 600 pages. It begins by listing the names of the victims and then page by page outlines failures by law enforcement, failures the U.S. Attorney General says could have saved lives.
And the victims and survivors should never have been trapped with that shooter for more than an hour as they waited for their rescue.
The long-awaited review of the Robb Elementary mass shooting in 2022 by the Department of Justice was released to the public Thursday. The report, more than 600 pages, described, quote, cascading failures by law enforcement, many already well documented after the murders of 19 students and 2 teachers.
Within minutes of arriving inside the school, officials on scene transitioned from treating the scene as an active shooter situation to treating the shooter as a barricaded subject. This was the most significant failure.
U.S. Attorney General Merrick Garland described poor communication among law enforcement, misleading information given to parents, and the lack of an incident command as major failures in the 77 minutes it took to confront the shooter. He also brought up gun control, pointing to the AR-style rifles, magazines, and ammunition the shooter purchased days earlier with no apparent violation of state or federal gun laws.
Our children deserve better than to grow up in a country where an 18-year-old has easy access to a weapon that belongs on the battlefield.
Family members of the victims spoke after the Attorney General, calling for changes to gun laws.
Robb Elementary began the day an 18-year-old was allowed to purchase an AR-15. I hope that the failures end today and that local officials do what wasn't done that day, do right by the victims and survivors of Robb Elementary.
A lawyer representing most of the families also criticized law enforcement procedure and once again directed attention to access to weapons.
These families didn't need a 400 or 500-page government report to learn that law enforcement failed them in a historic way. They were scared because they're human beings, and they were scared of getting killed, and they waited around while somebody else was going to be brave enough to intervene. This 18-year-old kid was able to walk into a store down the street and acquire a military weapon.
The DOJ is not bringing any criminal charges. Garland said their task is to do a report. He said it is up to the local district attorney to decide if the failures were criminal. The critical incident review outlined more than 100 recommendations. Some of them have already been implemented in Uvalde and statewide. Garland was asked, what's the most important recommendation in his mind?
The most significant and urgent thing for law enforcement to do is active shooter training.
And Garland said the healing process will continue in Uvalde for some time. Governor Abbott reacted to the report, saying that Texas will continue to evaluate ways of making schools safer and will review other recommendations.